I'm here sitting alongside Ian Duke from Inside R&D, and no one finer to talk us through this exclusive preview card for Battle for Zendikar. Let's put it up on screen for you and take our first ever look at Guardian of Tazeem. Let's take a look on the big board. There it is, 3 blue for a rare creature, Sphinx, 4/5, flying with landfall. And the landfall ability says, whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, that's the landfall bit, tap target creature and opponent controls. If that land is an island, that creature doesn't untap during its controller's next untap step. We're going to leave that up there for you to drink it all in. While Ian, you tell us what is going on with Guardian of Tazeem.
So I love this card. It was one of the actually very first cards we designed. I was on the Battle for Zendikar design team, also the development team later on. But this was one of the first cards we put in the file. And we knew when we were returning to Zendikar, we wanted to deliver on all the things that people loved about the original Zendikar. And landfall was one of the most popular and I think recognizable or memorable elements of the original Zendikar. So we thought to ourselves, we want to bring back landfall. What are some new things we can do with landfall that we didn't do the first time around? And we thought up the idea, what if we have a landfall creature that cares about what type of land you play? And in this case, Guardian of Tazeem cares if the land you played was an island, it actually gets to tap and lock down that creature for a turn.
So an ability like landfall, is that something that naturally makes R&D sort of gravitate towards wanting to come back to a place like Zendikar? Was landfall one of the selling points, if you like, to coming back here?
So great question. We wanted to come back to Zendikar because Zendikar was really popular. And I personally believe that landfall was one of the reasons that Zendikar was so popular. It's just a nice, simple mechanic. It plays off of something that happens organically in every game of Magic. Players are playing lands. Any deck does this. And so it worked really well the first time around. So in the sense that landfall was part of what made Zendikar popular, and Zendikar being popular was part of the reason we returned to Zendikar, then yes, in that sense, landfall was part of the reason we returned to Zendikar, yeah.
Right. Now, obviously, we're in a world where, well, Zendikar has Eldrazi, some giant things. How difficult is it then to make a card like this still feel important when traditionally a 4/5 flyer for 5 mana, that's a really big flying beat stick, but we're in a world where there are things where you look even higher sometimes to giant things.
Yeah, great point. In most limited formats or most environments, a 4/5 flyer is huge, right? A 5-mana creature, generally pretty big. But when we're talking Eldrazi, we're talking really big. I mean, earlier today in the draft portion, we saw Seth Manfield play an Ulamog,
right,
which just came crashing down on the battlefield. And that's the type of big that you think of when you think of Eldrazi. So we knew we needed some other big creatures in the set that weren't Eldrazi to sort of represent the Zendikari side of the conflict. And so this was the space we went into with these sort of medium-sized creatures that actually, they kind of top out the curve for the Zendikari side of the fight, but they're particularly effective against those big Eldrazi. And that's what we loved about this ability where Guardian of Tazeem can tap and lock down a big creature. You can actually hold, that huge Eldrazi at bay for a couple turns.
It can be as big as it likes. It's still, well, I've got
That's
the
right.
answers. I'm a Sphinx. Talking of which, Sphinx as a card type, I guess, a creature type, we're not particularly in a tribal world, but Sphinx is something we've seen before in Zendikar.
Yeah, I remember back iconic cards like Sphinx of Dwar Isle, another location on Zendikar, and Sphinx of Lost Truths are two of the ones I remember from the original Zendikar. And yeah, Sphinxes are just cool creatures, so I love to see them popping up again and again.
They certainly are. So that is our first preview card for Battle for Zendikar. More coming throughout the weekend here at PAX, and that is Guardian of Tazeem.